I might have like a minute as I have my daughter here with me today, but like, if you want to, we can set up like a time, for like moving forward if you want to. Okay. Yeah, I have her today, so like. Yeah. All right, good morning. How's everyone? Last Thursday class, we're definitely getting down to it now. We finished exam 2. We have our last like little bit. So in this unit, we'll look at contraception and abortion, right? So kind of birth control methods today. So we'll talk about how to not get pregnant, and then we'll talk about how to get pregnant next, which will be chapter 12. Then we go into STIs, or sexually transmitted infections, varieties of expression, power and coercion, and selling sex. Right, so those are our topics yet to come. That's it. We're in the last third. So the light is it's coming, right? It feels like we went back to like nice, cool spring weather, but we are getting closer to summer. So I have a special guest today who didn't want me to sit here, but I brought one of them this today. For birth control methods. So it's like maybe forget them. So, but that's okay. And then I want to put up here too, I wrote on the board, like always, I want to give you some statistics. Yeah, obviously you took your exam, bless you. I graded all of them. I might have one left to grade, but I graded all of them that were submitted. The high score was 100. Right, very nice. The low score was a 37. So definitely a range. And then the average was a 90. The average amount of time was 61 minutes. So just so you can kind of see where you fell in relationship to everyone. A lot of A's. A lot of people did really, really well. A lot of A's and B's, right? So most of you are probably very happy. Except for the back. We have one more exam. It's not cumulative. Okay, so the final exam is the third exam. I don't believe in cumulative finals, so I don't give them. I think they're the worst. Like, I understand their purpose, but I hate them as a student, so I don't give them as a teacher. The third exam will just be on everything from today forward. So everything in the third unit. We also have our second homework assignment due this Wednesday. I kind of mentioned it before break in case you needed to travel or do something for it. But definitely be thinking about this. I'll remind you again on Wednesday, but it's due by Wednesday night at 11:59. Yeah. Second 25-point homework assignment. So we definitely have some participations left. We have one more exam, and then we have one more homework assignment. So lots of points, still some really interesting materials to get through. I love the next unit 12 on pregnancy. You get a chance to like tell you kind of like our journey and story of them. So I look forward to that one next time. And then we have a guest speaker coming to talk about STIs, which I always think is really interesting. She's fantastic. It's Jasmine from our health center. Are there any questions about any of this stuff though before we go into our next unit? Yeah.
When is Jasmine coming?
On the 23rd. So a week from Wednesday. Yeah, and she's gonna cover STIs for us, which is she's great. I think she's fantastic. She came to our abnormal psych class for suicide prevention. This one's definitely a very different tone, but very interesting. I want to remind you as well. So obviously a couple of people on the exam maybe not as well as you would have liked. Don't forget that there is an extra credit opportunity on campus that you can do all the way until our final, which is on the 14th of May. Okay, so 5/14 is our last class and it's online. But there's that 20-point self-care extra credit opportunity. And that would definitely help make up for like a missed participation or two, or maybe a lower score. So something to keep in mind, and you can always turn in the homework assignments at any point. These ones for at least 50% if you miss the deadline. So a couple of things if you're maybe feeling like you are wanting a few more points, just wanted to remind you that is available to you all the way till the 14th of May. It's like 1 month. 1 month from from today, right? 1 month from today, we're done. That's kind of sad, like a little bittersweet, but exciting, right? Mixed. Anything else? Any other like questions or anything about any of that? Before we get into birth control? Yeah. Yes.
I'm wondering if anybody else had the same weirdness that I did. So the first page you go to, it has different directions than
Oh,
the link,
okay.
and that's where I was.
Okay, I'll check it. Thank you for letting me know. So I used to have a different assignment and then I changed it once the book was published. So I'm wondering if maybe the link is wrong. I'll check it. Thank you for letting me know.
So it is, we do need to buy the book.
You read the book, you have to read through the book and then there's some worksheets that you fill out.
Alright.
Yeah, the old one was like submitting examples of self-care.
That was like what I.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I will check it. Thank you for letting me know. I thought I fixed them, but sometimes Canvas is this got so many weird back doors that it's easy to miss.
But I'm glad that you have until the final.
Yes, you have all the way till, you have a month,
Okay.
right? Anything else for now? Okay, so what we'll look at today is kind of set the stage a little bit, and then I have a group activity that we're gonna do related to birth control methods, which will take up a good chunk of our time. But we'll talk a little bit about like, how do we take birth control methods? Right, a bunch of different like issues with them, things like human error and human failure rates, which are the biggest reason that these things fail. So we'll set the tone a little bit first. So birth control, also going by the name of contraception, the same thing. What we're looking at here is the prevention of pregnancy. Okay, you can also think about this as ways to prevent yourself from getting an STD or an STI. STI would be the current term, right? But with these, you're looking at things like abstinence, using devices. There are different procedures, things that either prevent ovulation, fertilization, implantation, you're preventing pregnancy, or protecting yourself from different STIs, which will be a topic we get to soon as well. And as long as we have evidence of like history and sexuality, we have evidence of people trying to prevent pregnancy through all sorts of wild methods. If we go back in the past, people would use seed pods, grass plugs, and empty pomegranate halves. They would insert them up into the vaginal canal to try and block sperm from being able to get up and cause pregnancy to occur. Not very effective, leading to a lot of infections and issues as well. But they were things that were practiced. Early condoms were made out of sheepskin and sheep fumigations and herbs and tinctures, things that were wildly ineffective. But we have tried many, many things over many different years to try and prevent getting pregnant. We have a lot of different methods now, much more effective, much more sanitary than some of those things in the past. Yeah.
What is the deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, probably not,
Yeah.
right?
But like
And
historically, like, is
yeah,
there some kind of magical tea that?
no,
Yeah,
so.
like, cause I've heard of like poisoning and stuff.
Uh-oh.
where-
Okay, look at you first. I'm like, are you okay? All right. Okay, so if there is an earthquake, we get under our little desk.
Shaking the board.
I know. Well, this thing shakes all the time. I don't feel anything, but I'm like, oh, I just went like this, like that was gonna help something. Earthquakes to me, okay, so I almost minored in geology. Like, I love geology, but I find them supernatural. Like they're scary to me. Like, okay, did anyone feel anything? I don't know.
Scheduled. I took geology last
Yeah.
semester, and some of like, I remember the last time I got like this earthquake reported or whatever. Everyone in class was like, "Oh, I felt it before I got the alert," or "Oh, I felt it after," or "I felt it during." So
Okay.
it's still like in
Right?
beta testing essentially for that
Yeah.
type of technology.
So if
So we could feel it later.
there's anything more than like a tiny little whatever, right, we're supposed to get under. Yes, I get this big beautiful whatever, right? Right, I feel so bad because these are so small, like protect your head, right? Protect your head. Hopefully we'll be okay. But I feel like I want to wait, like I'm waiting for it. Sorry, so the tea,
But like
right?
inducing poison or something.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that.
So, I mean, so there are a lot of things that people like, I won't say there's anything that you can take that will cause, the idea was like
Yeah.
trying to cause like a chemically induced
Yeah.
abortion. Like, so in the early phases of pregnancy, right, like you are like very susceptible to like high amounts of substances. And so it might be, I don't know what was in it. Like, I'm curious to go read it
Yeah.
about it more, but no, there's not really any efficacy to the idea. Yeah. Yeah, sheep intestines. Not testicles, but intestines, yes. I mean, that'd be very creative, right? Yeah, 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 that was a thing.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Don't they still use some sort of like animal skin for people allergic to latex?
No, like there's different products, right? So the most common ones are like, there's like the common like, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the material. Thank you, latex, thank you. I'm like, it starts with an L, the earthquake thing through, right? So latex, but then there's also other like, forms of condoms for people who are allergic to latex, which isn't super common, but it can happen, right? You can be allergic to it.
Goat skin.
Yeah, I mean, so the problem with like, there's a million different like alternative forms of condoms, right? Like ones that are more like natural or homeopathic, but like, but are they as effective? No. Are they as safe? No. And sometimes they're like very black market even to get them. I won't say they're not out there, but there are other like synthetic forms of condoms for people who are allergic to latex. Still nothing out. Still nothing, right? I'm still watching for the earthquake. Yeah.
Women who drink like a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
To like induce miscarriage, they're not like poison tea, but I know
Right.
that was.
Yeah. Alcohol is something that was thought to like induce that early on, like vigorous exercise. I mean, things that have very mixed efficacy, but like any effort to try and prevent pregnancy. Like, yeah. What was that? That's why we didn't do it. Yeah, okay. Well, good thing we were warned, right? I mean, I'd rather be warned than not. warned. Whoa. Are you serious? Wow, that's big though, 6.0.
That's.
Wow, okay, well, I hope, I mean, America was out there going down, I hope they're okay, that's big. Like, what was the Northridge quake was?
6.9.
Six, was it? 6.9, it was like 5 points.
Like a 7.
I know, the one there, that's scary. Scary, scary. Yeah,
Big.
Yeah,
I was
the-
wide awake.
I was in San Diego for that, but like, yeah.
I was wide awake living at sea.
Yeah.
Nursing. Oh, yeah.
Scary. All right, so, really, so like I mentioned, we have evidence of these things going all the way back. Now, were they effective? Not really, but they were commonly used. We also have a lot of history of birth control methods being very controversial, right? So as long, and that continues today, right? That's something that has persisted into like literally right now. That birth control methods, including things like abortions and contraceptive methods, being controversial, right? And depending on what state you live in or where you live, different laws. In the 1870s, we saw what were called the Comstock laws. There's a man named Anthony Comstock who was very violently against birth control methods. The idea was that if we allow people to try and prevent it, we're encouraging sex, right? Kind of a lot of like rhetoric in that way. Then there were two people, Margaret Sanger and Catherine McCormick, who were fighters for women's rights and for the availability of birth control methods. So kind of as long as we have history of these being around, there's been people fighting them, people trying to advance them, a lot of mixed Supreme Court rulings all the way into today about what's legal and where and at what point, especially when we get to topics like abortions, which is covered at the end of the chapter. So just know like kind of a very controversial topic throughout history and into now. As it says on the first bullet, right? Huge increase in contraceptive methods being used, though. It's estimated, and this is about 5 years old, statistics wise, that about 60% of sexually active couples use some form of contraceptive method today, right? Whether that is one method or two, like a combination of methods, but about 10% if you go back to the 60s. A lot of people use these, and it's desirable for a lot of reasons. Right, allowing people to enjoy like intimacy without fear of getting pregnant, without as much fear of acquiring an STD or an STI, reducing unwanted pregnancies and abortions, issues of overpopulation, right? Other countries really struggling with overpopulation, allowing that to stay under control a little bit more, and then expanding women's access to higher levels of education and economic opportunity. when people have a baby very young, it can make it where it makes it hard for them to have access to those opportunities, right? So allowing that a little bit more. Religiously, right, tends to add a lot of controversy here as well. Oftentimes religion being very against different birth control methods, viewing it as like a mockery for God's plan, and kind of interfering with reproduction and procreation. So again, just controversial, but a lot of reasons why this can be somewhat desirable for people. When it comes to birth control methods, this ideally should be something that you talk about long before you're going to be intimate with someone, right? Or at least a little bit before you're going to be intimate. This isn't something you want to be covering in the moment. You don't want to be in the moment of intimacy being like, are we using a condom or not? Are you protected? Am I protected? Like when you're in the heat of that moment, right? So just like having conversations about preferences is important, having conversations about birth control methods and protection is also important. And this isn't just for heterosexual couples. We tend to think of birth control needing to be for like male-female couples, right? You can still acquire STDs and STIs, right, in same-sex interactions at a very high frequency, same as with heterosexual couples. So it should be something that you're thinking about and talking about together. I think I popped up the clip earlier in the movie Knocked Up, which has a couple of, there's a great like some childbirth stuff in there too that's really like great for this class. But there's a scene where like the two of them are getting like intimate, right? And like they're trying to have this conversation as they're about to have sex, and like they misunderstand each other. They're drunk and they're like in the moment, right? And so I'll play that for you as just like again, like as a point of how this should be done ahead of time rather than in early is important. You don't want to be having it in that moment when again they're both like drunk and like distracted, right? So I think a good example of why it's important to have that a little bit earlier. It should also be something that you consider together, right? And so, you know, there are methods that two people can use. So you can call that like combined or backup methods. So it could be that, for example, like someone who's female is on a birth control pill and a male is using a condom, right? And so you have two different methods that you're using, which makes you more likely to be protected. So it should be something that you discuss, consider together. There are like lots of videos and clinics and classes and like reading through those options together, again, before that moment. I think it's also important to remember, I have this up here, when choosing a method, right, there is currently not an ideal method. And what that means is there's not one that is 100% effective, completely safe, with no side effects, reversible, separate from sexual activity, inexpensive, easy to obtain, usable by either sex, and not dependent on the user's memory, short of abstinence, right? So not having any kind of sexual activity will obviously protect you. Not from every STI. You can get some from like bathrooms and hot tubs and things like that, right? Like contact with other people, grandma giving you a kiss when she has oral herpes, right? That can be something that you acquire as well. But we're talking more about like sexual intimacy, and there isn't anything that is 100%, right? But a lot of things do have pretty good rates of success. So you want to consider effectiveness and cost, use, and side effects. And you also really want to know yourself. And what I mean by this is if you're somebody who cannot keep track of time, birth control pills might not be the best for you. You have to take them every day at the same time or they lose their effectiveness. If you're not comfortable touching yourself to insert like a vaginal ring, like a meter ring, then maybe using that method isn't going to work great for you. Right? So knowing yourself and what you're comfortable with is really important. Right? Some people don't want to go in for a medical procedure, or they don't have access to insurance to go in for a medical procedure, like having an IUD put in or an implant put in or whatnot. Right? So kind of knowing what you're comfortable with and not. And then failure and human error are the #1 reasons why these things fail. Using a condom improperly, not knowing how to use a condom, not taking that birth control pill at the same time every day, right? Human error is the #1 reason why birth control methods fail. And so a lot of people use backup methods to try and protect themselves even more. Okay, yeah, I know you have a condom, but I'm also on the pill. Or I know that you have this, but I also have that, right? And so there's a lot of ways that you can kind of combine those elements because again, human error, #1 reason. One more clip for you. This one from 40-Year-Old Virgin. Great example of human error with a condom. So again, practicing knowing how to use these things ahead of time, not a bad idea. You see that he has no idea what to do with this condom in this clip. I think about this when she comes in, but you can get quite a few free condoms from our health center as part of your student health fees. Because they do expire. They also can very easily have holes in them, which make them ineffective, right? If somebody wanted to get pregnant, you could very easily poke a small hole in it if it doesn't have that little air pouch, right? So practicing ahead of time, knowing how to use them, knowing, yourself, having backup methods, all of these things are important because every single item has a failure rate, and human error is the #1 reason why all of these things tend to fail. So what we're going to do from here, and I started doing this a couple of years ago, and I think it's kind of a fun way to cover these. I have a little box of very expired items, and I'm saying that because it frightens me that one of the Plan B pills is missing. So please know that all of these are very old. Please, do not think they will work for you. And a lot of them have been used and passed around, okay? But what I'm going to do is I have a few items. I have a female condom, Plan B, a vaginal contraceptive. I feel like I'm modeling. A dental dam, strawberry, a Nuvaring, a diaphragm, a male condom, a birth control pill pack, which is also missing one pill. This whole thing, it's a tiny little tip at the top of here, not this whole thing that's inserted. And then I also have a patch. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I want you to get into groups of 3 or 4 people, whatever is convenient, you can pick whoever's around you. And then when you have an idea of what item you want, you can send someone up to grab it. It's just first come, first served, right? But they're up here. And then what I'll have you do as a group is you're gonna do some research together as a group on your item. Use your phones, your tablets, your computers, whatever you have at your disposal. But I want you to give me an overview of your item. What is it? How is it used? What are the benefits and disadvantages? Another way of thinking about that, the positives and negatives. How much does it cost? Where do you get it? Right? All that kind of information. Is there anything else interesting that you found out about it? And you can write that on this paper or on a separate piece of paper. But then as a group, you're going to present on this. So you can decide as a group, do you want one person to share everything or do you want to break it up? You're just going to do it from your seat. You don't have to come up here or anything intimidating, but just quickly give us an overview of your item. So we'll take maybe 20 minutes and maybe plenty of time to research it. But use websites, use your book, use the internet, but do a little research. When you're ready, find a couple of people, 3 or 4 people, and then send one person up to grab an item and a sheet, and then you can get started. Okay, so find a few people around you, and then when you're ready, come on up.
Hey.
Whatever my hand touches.
So work on this together, make notes. I'll be wandering around.
Okay.
What do I have?
Oh, it was discounted. Oh, cool. The United States.
Instead of breathing, they fixed it. I'm sorry, I don't like.
I know, I said.
Sounds like.
Yes.
And Julian.
And Julie.
No, that's San Diego.
It's outside.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, I think it's definitely.
let's go ever.
So it's like this.
It's like the.
Yeah. No, I don't. I swear.
Big old. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 6.7. Yeah, yeah. It would, it's January 17th. Yeah, yeah, I was wide awake, I just lost so much about. So, yeah. Yeah, I was, I really was. I'll never forget it, I'll say that. It's lost, yeah.
I'll start talking about it.
My daughter, yeah, her too, she had a lot of.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, yeah. Oh, belly button down. Or on part of this. That's what it says on the.
Oh, it isn't.
Yeah. It's belly button down and or upper part of like. Outer part of the. So not. You're not supposed to put it. I don't think you got it.
With this.
Yeah.
Really low.
Like, yeah, that's what I was. Yeah. That's what it is. Oh, that's, yeah. That's alcohol, that's drawing, which is the worst thing I can do. I mean, it's what I'm saying. My daughter did it, and she did what she said.
Yeah.
But she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Supposedly she does. So they're trying to like reset her life in a way with. But if it doesn't work, they kind of. You know what I'm saying?
It's tough to find out. I know some people can't tolerate it.
Yes.
Either.
I know, it made me very sick.
Yeah.
And then I learned how to make that sick.
She got that, like, the whole urethane. And that's another way around there, right? That'll do it too.
Right?
Thank you for letting me know. Ready.
Oh, I know. I know. It's right now. It's so sensitive to everything. I know me too. When I get a needle or a flower. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes.
Said that they were gonna make like Sexuality. That's scary. That's a choice. The internet was like, oh, it's 10, right? And then the first one. So it was like.
And their passion was better than the regular.
All right, let's come back to our regroup so we can hear from everyone. So a couple of things, we'll just go from group to group, whoever wants to volunteer. Really important though, talking in front of your peers, a little intimidating, so let's just make sure we're listening and being respectful when people are talking. Because it's enough to have to do it, right? Again, you don't need to get up just from your seat and however you divided it up as a group. Anyone want to go first, share what you had and what you found, go here in the back there and then 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah.
Okay, so we got the patch, and the patch is essentially, it's just wonderful model, thank you. It's just a little hormone patch. It takes 7 days for like full effectiveness. You're supposed to use it like immediately after your period. Typically, it's going to cost from around zero, if your insurance covers it, to around $150. You'll get 3 of these patches. You'll wear them weekly, and it will give you enough hormones to basically stop ovulation and also thicken your cervical mucus. So it kind of acts as like a sperm blockage thing. It has a 91 to 99% like effectiveness. So basically 7 out of 100 patients will get pregnant like using this. All of the side effects we saw were basically pretty common in most birth controls. Like you have like spotting wings in your period, fluctuations in weight, bone thinning, you know. The major one with this, however, was blood clots. That was the main concern. More specifically in women that smoke, or like women over the age of 35. This patch specifically, it was made in the 1980s. It was approved by the FDA in 2001. However, it was discontinued, this version at least, was discontinued because the generic brand, Zulane, was released and approved by FDA in 2014. So it still exists, it's still out there. I think that reading discontinued is kind of scary, but it's just because there's a generic version now that you're cheaper. Exactly. You can only get this via prescription. I think there's only like 1 birth control that you can get without prescription. So once again, pretty normal. Anyone that has a period can start using this. There's not like an age limit, basically. Another kind of side effect to focus on is that there is like a skin irritation possibility. It's kind of like latex or anything. We were looking it up. It's just like 3 layers of plastic essentially that are distributing the hormones. Where you're placing this patch, you either want to place it on your upper shoulder, you want to place it in your belly, your butt, or your back, basically. And if it starts to like peel or get dirty due to like you putting like lotion on it, sunscreen, a lot of like swimming, sweat, you do want to try to attach it in 2 days or it will lose effectiveness. And also you are safe to breastfeed while using this. There was no like major side effects.
Anything else you want to add?
It only comes in that.
Oh yeah,
color.
Yeah.
It becomes very, very susceptible to human error because if you don't know where to put it, like if you put it on your breast, it will have negative effects or distribute the hormones, and it doesn't work for heavier people. It doesn't distribute.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that when you aren't within that ideal weight range, the effectiveness drops. And then the concerns about only eating with 1 tongue are something that make it controversial. Let's talk for you.
So we did the IUD.
Yes.
And basically it stands for intrauterine device, and it's a small T-shaped device that's inserted into the uterus to prevent pregnancy. And some of the pros are that it's long lasting, so it can last from 3 to 12 years. It can reduce heavy and painful periods. It's reversible, so it can be taken out. It's safe to use while breastfeeding, low maintenance, so once it's in, you don't have to think about it, unlike the pills where you have to constantly remember to take the pills. And there's multiple options, so if somebody wants a hormone-free option, that's available as well. And then some of the cons are that the insertion and the removal can be pretty painful, and some of them can also result in heavier and painful periods, spotting and irregular periods. Pelvic inflammatory disease can result from IUDs, and there's a chance of expulsion, which means that the IUD won't come out on its own. But that's pretty rare, and it only happens in about 2 to 10% of people that get an IUD.
Okay, and then going back to some extra information, it is over 99% effective in preventing pregnancies, but it does not protect against STIs. And then the cost for it, depending on your insurance. Depending if you have insurance or not, we don't have to pay for it, or if you don't have insurance, it can range up to $1,800. It's widely available in most places. You can get the OBGYN, family planning clinics, medical clinics, and women's health centers, college health centers, and even urgent care.
Anything else you want to add before we? That's fair enough.
It almost reminds me of like.
So vaginal contraceptive foam, it's a type of spermicide and contraceptive gel, which also comes in creams, foams, films, and suppositories. It does not prevent STDs. It has chemicals to stop sperm from reaching an egg. It is put in the vagina to prevent pregnancy. The main ingredient is naloxone 9, which can irritate vaginal tissue. It can increase the risks of HIV and other STDs due to irritation of the tissue, giving infections an easier way into your body. And you can buy this over the counter and most drugstores, pharmacies, Walmart, Target, in the common aisle.
And then let's see, only 79% effective, 21 out of 100 users will still become pregnant. It is a non-hormonal option. For greater effectiveness, pair it with another contraceptive methods. That means you're gonna have to at least have 2 if you want to be safe. The root word side in spermicide means to kill. Spermicide doesn't actually kill sperm, but it slows it down so it can't reach an egg. Only costs about $3 per use, or it's $15 per package.
And one more thing, so basically, if you have sex more than once a day, it said you're pretty much guaranteed to get an infection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very unpopular right? At least something that you can use as like a spermicide, but they're, like you said, not the greatest of effectiveness rates. There's a lot of human error rates, a lot of irritations. It's an option, but it's not one of the better ones for sure. Thank you. Next.
We decided at our group, item that we presented was latex. The other told them.
Very nice model.
And it's basically overview as use a barrier to prevent STIs.
Benefits is it reduces the risks of STIs during oral sex. The dangers are that it has incomplete protection. It can tear, or it can be, improperly used. You could possibly have a latex allergy, and something we joked around about is what if it just slips off.
Yeah, and that's definitely possible too. You have to hold it very tightly, right?
Right. And if it like slips off and you don't notice for a second.
Right.
So it's not 100% effective, but significant enough. Just look at this.
So some other relevant information, we saw that the cost for this specifically was $9 for the package. I think it comes in, if I'm not mistaken. But it is around $2 per individual. That's what it's stereotyped as like specifically for lesbians, like that's just a super common misconception, but it's for anyone who engages in oral sex, specifically like vaginal. So
Okay, all right, great, thank you. And yeah, a barrier method, so you're literally holding that over somebody's vulva as like a barrier to perform oral sex, and as you mentioned, it gets slippery, you could easily lose that. It's not the biggest of squares, they are often, that one's strawberry flavored. I don't know because it says.
It does not smell like strawberry.
It does not.
We smelled it. It
Yeah.
smells like
That's what they look like. So you're holding square over top of oral sex. As a side note, and Jasmine often mentions this too, you can also use saran wrap as long as it's non-microwavable. If it's microwavable, it has small holes in it, right, to allow it to not explode during microwaving. So if you want to be. So if you want to be fasting for the holidays, saran wrap is the most important. Thank you. We have a few more. Who wants to go? Yeah, you want to go next? Okay, great.
Our group did the female condom. It's also known as the internal condom. It's a non-hormonal option. So it's inserted into the vagina before intercourse and works by creating a barrier to prevent sperm from entering the uterus. So for insertion, you would put a finger into the condom and push it as far into the vagina as it can go. And you have to make sure that the outer ring stays on the outside. So this birth control method also prevents from sexually transmitted diseases when used.
The effectiveness of a vaginal condom is only 79% due to the common insertion error and not being used consistently. There is a lot of instruction on the back and isn't sold everywhere, and it's actually more expensive than a male condom. Less availability than male condoms, and it needs to be purchased online.
Anything else that you have different? All right, great. Let's go. And I like that you made it so much less effective, right? So the nice thing is a woman can use one of these and have their own version of a condom, right? But you do have to hold it in place when inserting like a penis or an object into the vaginal canal. It easily get pushed aside. Removing is a little bit trickier, less effective, and you never want to use that in combination with a male condom. The friction can cause them to rip, make them both largely infected, right? Yeah.
Can they be lost inside and the legs?
And I mean, it could easily get pulled into the vaginal
Okay.
canal, but it wouldn't go like past the surface
Yeah.
or anything, so it would be easy to remove.
Okay,
But if it did get pushed aside up into the vaginal canal, it's largely worthless,
yeah.
right? Like it's not gonna be as effective. So much trickier to use, but it is another option. Yeah.
So kind of crazy that this is like an option for if a guy just doesn't want to use a condom.
Yeah.
It's less effective, it's more expensive.
Yeah.
It's really looks good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's something kind of off-putting
Yeah.
about that. It does give, you know, a woman some agency. You can insert it hours ahead of time if you wanted to, but it is just so much less effective, drastically less so. But yeah, that's an interesting commentary too. Yeah,
Can we like keep it in there forever?
no, you wouldn't want to, right? It would
I say for people,
right.
just use it as a full-time, like,
Yeah, it's a single use, like a single use item, right? So after any kind of use, you would want to remove it, and it would obviously irritate the vaginal canal as
Yeah.
well. So typically, I'm not sure there's like a set time frame, but a matter of hours would be the limit you would want to keep that in there without it
the 80.
becoming a problem.
Yeah.
I forgot it was there. We have a couple other groups who wants to go. So we have a couple more.
So this one is a thin, single-use stretchy pouch that you can wear on your penis during sex. It provides protection against pregnancy and STIs. And you can also cut down the side and
As long as it doesn't have spermicide on it, because then it will taste good.
so, unless you're like,
Frontal contact, bodily fluids, and skin contact. And it costs about $2 per condom, give or take. And there's no restrictor part, just buy it. As is, off my door counter. Some cons, they expire. This one expired in like 2014. It's old. They read, which, you know, doesn't work. Some can be damaged by oil-based lubes, and they not only 87% effectiveness. I think that should be a pro.
according to Planned Parenthood, they only have a 87%.
It's a pretty good rate though, so. I didn't.
There are 3 types of condom. There's the latex, the plastic or non-latex, and the animal skin, which we did talk about.
So the latex is the most common, it is the most readily available, but it is, susceptible to oil-based lubes, so it can get damaged. Same with I think also the plastic or non-latex kind, but a water-based or silicone-based lube is good for all types. And both the latex and non-latex kind prevent against pregnancy and STIs, while the animal skin does not prevent against STIs. I guess the pores in the skin are small enough to block the sperm, but not viruses and bacteria. Thank you.
It's similar to like I said, the condom, you never want to use more than one, right? So you have that like, if I use two, it'll be more effective. No, right? The friction of the two actually creates issues, makes them drastically less effective. Condoms, if used properly, are probably one of the most effective forms of like birth control methods, right? As specifically for like men. Do we get everybody? Did I miss somebody? Okay, do we have one more? Wait, yeah, okay. Like, it's usually like a group that refuses to make eye contact with me at some point, but about one more. Alright, go for it.
Our growth did the diaphragm, which is, it's kind of like a big non-stretching condom. It's very stiff. And you insert it at the base, it's kind of like the female condom when you insert it, like, and then have it like expand out. You have to, it's non-hormonal, which is good. But, and you can insert it like up to 2 hours before sex, and then like, if you take care of it, you can last for 2 years. But, it's typically paired with spermicide, which has its own problems. So there can be a lot of side effects. And you are more susceptible to STIs. And you have a prescription to get it because you want the sizing for it, so that's where the process of and you can't, for it to be effective, you have to wait 6 hours after sex to get out. But if you leave it too long, then you can get toxin too. So you get to be very aware of the time.
Anything else there? Good. Okay.
Oh, and it costs, $200.
Very expensive.
And it's spermicide because it's always paired with them.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah, again, not one of the more popular options, but another option available.
Do you
Alright.
know how like effective it is? Let me get on.
Right, it's lower, it's like, I don't know what's synonymous with the spermicide.
70 to 99.
Yeah, that's a nice range.
Yeah.
So what I've read is like consistently in the 70s, is it like the 70% range is pretty common because of human error, and because, again, it can move if it's not placed properly.
It's also, it's really stiff.
Yeah.
It's being hard to move it.
Yeah. Let's pause for them. Thank you, very nicely done. I appreciate you all sharing so nicely. So what we'll do next time, there's a couple of other thoughts kind of at the end here about some natural methods. And then some more permanent methods like surgery-based kind of things. So we'll talk about those a little bit next time, and then we'll move on to chapter 12, which is how to get pregnant. When we're talking about avoiding it, and we're talking about doing it, right? So if you want to make sure you bring your item back and put your sheet up here, thank you so much, and we'll see you all on Wednesday. Don't forget about the homework assignment for Wednesday. Start working on it. Thank you. Hi, yeah. I'm so